Hi, Scary Recaps here. Today, I'm going to explain the movie Fresh from 2022. Beware of spoilers. A young woman named Noah goes out on a blind date. Before the date, Noah talks over the phone with her best friend, Molly. Noah is kind of worried about the date, but at the end agrees to meet the guy, whose name is Chad, in a Chinese restaurant. Noah is disappointed by Chad, who takes leftovers and looks like he is a very clumsy guy. After the date, Noah confesses to him that he is not her type, at which Chad swears at her and leaves. Later, at the gym, Noah and her friend Molly make fun of this while practicing boxing together. Back at her house, Noah is working while texting men on an online dating site. A user sends her an inappropriate picture and Noah is disgusted. Noah goes to the supermarket where she meets a man named Steve, who tells her about grapes and convinces her to eat one. They chat for a while and Noah gives him her phone number. Molly says to Noah that this Steve guy will probably be married and Noah laughs. Yet, Noah receives a message from Steve asking her out. Noah meets Steve in a bar where they talk about their lives and their jobs. Steve is a plastic surgeon and Noah talks about her childhood years, saying that she has lost touch with her family. The night seems to get along very nicely, with Steve and Noah laughing and having a good time. At some point, Noah confesses that she hates dating and that all this one love thing sounds stupid. They kiss and Noah invites Steve over to her place and the two of them have sex. In the morning, Noah talks with her friend Molly and mentions that Steve didn't have any social media accounts. Molly says that is weird and suspicious enough, but Noah doesn't listen to her. Noah and Steve continue to hang out together. One night, Steve dances with Noah and then proposes to her to go on a trip with him for the weekend. Molly advises Noah against this idea, but Noah is determined to go. The next day, Steve tells Noah to sleep in his house and to leave the following day in order to avoid the traffic to their destination. That night, they arrive at Steve's house and Noah takes a look around. Steve prepares a cocktail for Noah and gives it to her. Noah drinks the cocktail and soon falls unconscious. When Noah wakes up, she finds out that Steve has drugged her and has put handcuffs on her, evidently holding her captive. Noah begs for him to release her, but Steve says no and informs her that all he wants is her meat. He intends to take care of her and sell her meat to some very rich clients. Meanwhile, Molly worries about Noah and calls her. She receives a text saying that the service isn't that good and that she is alright. Noah cries for help and another captive named Penny, who has shared the same fate as she has, talks to her from an adjoining cell. Penny says that she is slowly being eaten and it is revealed that Steve is after lonely girls who don't have many friends or relatives. Another captive named Melissa is with them, but it appears she has lost her mind. Molly does a background check on Steve and finds out that something doesn't add up. She discovers that one of the photos Noah supposedly sent her is taken from the internet and texts Noah to inform her about it. Steve takes Melissa's leg from the fridge and cuts it to pieces. He puts the pieces in boxes and the delivery guy comes to pick them up in order to take them to Steve's clients. Noah refuses to eat her meal and asks Steve if she can take a shower. Steve agrees, and on the way to the bathroom, Noah attempts to escape. Steve knocks her out, and soon Noah finds herself under his blade. Steve surgically removes pieces of her rear side to punish her for her earlier behavior. Molly visits the bar where Noah and Steve first met to talk with Paul, the bartender, with whom she had an affair a while ago. Molly asks about Steve, but Paul can't do anything out of fear of losing his job. Molly expresses her concern for Noah and manages to persuade Paul to help her. Noah crawls to the floor since she can't stand after the incisions. She says to Penny that she wants to hurt Steve for what he did. Penny agrees and says that it's not her fault of what happened to her, but Steve's and the evil men he works for. Paul sends Molly the information she required and learns that Steve is married and has children. Steve visits Noah in her luxury cell and gives her cherries. Noah is in denial and Steve tells her that things don't always go as planned. When he leaves, Noah reads a message on the magazine she was lazily browsing and talks with Penny, who sounds like she has lost hope. Noah encourages her and Penny curses Steve. Molly texts Paul about her location and visits Steve's wife, Anne, asking her about Noah. In the meantime, Noah asks Steve about the taste of human flesh, and Steve says that, if cooked right, it tastes great. Anne tells Molly that she doesn't know anything about her husband having any kind of relation with Noah. Molly is confused, and soon enough, she sees Steve enter the house. He introduces himself as Brendan and refuses anything that has to do with Noah. Molly leaves, but not before calling Noah on her mobile, which rings inside Brendan's jacket. Steve, or Brendan, takes out the mobile phone and shows it to her, and Anne, who is into this evil business, knocks Molly out. Paul is worried that Molly hasn't called him back and goes out to search for her. Noah secretly does push-ups to strengthen up, and Steve invites her for dinner to make her see what it's like eating human flesh. Anne is seen taking a bath. She is wearing a prosthetic leg, insinuating that Steve has used her in the past. At dinner, Noah asks Steve about cannibalism while looking for a way to escape. Steve tells her that although he was a normal kid, he grew up and discovered the taste of human flesh to be extraordinary. Noah eats a meatball taken from Hope and lies about the great taste, throwing up after the dinner. Steve takes Molly to the surgery room, and Noah and Penny discuss about the new captive. The next day, Steve gives Noah a pink dress as a present, and Noah tells her to have dinner with him again. Steve avoids his wife's texts and calls and prepares for dinner, just as Noah does the same. At dinner, they both eat pate from Melissa's meat this time. Noah wonders if Melissa ever had a candlelight dinner, and Steve shows her a secret cabinet behind an abstract painting, filled with many of his captives' belongings. He mentions that it makes the client feel more connected to the meat they are consuming by having an item of the person involved. Steve brings in a dish with breast meat, and Noah makes a joke about it, but soon ends up crying, feeling that she can't process the situation. Steve comforts her. He kisses her and realizes that he has forgotten to handcuff her. Noah shows him that she can be trusted and asks him to dance. The two of them dance and soon go to bed. Noah goes to the bathroom to freshen up, and Steve waits for her. Noah emerges, and as she goes to perform oral sex on Steve, she bites him hard and manages to escape. Noah then sets Molly and Penny free, and the three of them run away. Steve, however, attacks them in the kitchen, and a fight ensues. Molly succeeds in knocking Steve out, and the three girls flee the house. Meanwhile, Paul, who is searching for Molly, comes to Steve's house, but is scared away by the gunshots he hears. A beat-up and wounded Steve goes after the three women, firing at them with his gun. Noah, Molly, and Penny hide behind a tree, but Steve finds them, and he attacks them again. He is overpowered by Molly. Noah then takes the gun and shoots him in the face, killing him. The three survivors end up in a shed, and Molly goes alone to search for her mobile phone she has retrieved earlier in the house, but lost along the way. Steve's wife, Anne, comes to the house and follows the bloody trails. She is led outside, where she discovers Steve's dead body. Noah finds her mobile phone near the shed, and she is surprised by Anne, who, pretending to be another one of the survivors, attacks Noah and starts to choke her. Noah fights back and stabs Anne in the neck with a set of car keys she had taken from the house. Noah runs away, but Anne catches up with her and tries to choke her again. Molly comes then and hits Anne in the head with a shovel, knocking her down and then bludgeoning her to death. Noah wonders who that woman was, and Molly tells her that that was Steve's wife. Noah is baffled to learn that Steve is married, but Molly corrects her, saying that he was married. As they laugh, a text comes on Noah's phone from Chad asking if she is still up. The last scene, after the first credits, shows 5 men sitting around a large piece of meat that bleeds on a table.